Hello, everyone. Alexa Patti and Brandon Marcello here, coming live to you on a Friday, which is a little different for us. But here we are. We're at Auburn, and SEC Nation is here too. They're set up down here behind us, back under the parking, not under the parking garage, but behind the parking garage we are standing on. Brandon would know. He just came from there, and I hope some of y'all watched him on there. But we're here to talk to you about Auburn football and their game tomorrow. So, Brandon?
The game has been decided. Auburn won. You all go home and not come to the game tomorrow. No, it's Football Friday. Auburn's football team just left the athletics complex. They loaded up on the buses, headed to the team hotel, which is just now up the road. It used to be in Montgomery, but now it's closer. I don't know if I really want to say where it's at because then maybe they'll be bothered by fans. But anyway, they're pretty much in town now, so they don't have to worry about I always thought it was weird that they went to Montgomery on home games. It's kind of awkward. I know a lot of teams like to go out about 30, 45 minutes outside of town, but that's a little ridiculous. Going downtown Montgomery on a game week? Anyway. So just got off the Feinbaum set, which because of the weather, apparently there's lightning south of us. We actually had to do the show on a bus. You may have watched me. I was the very big bearded guy sitting there in a chair talking about Auburn and everything right after Alan Green got on and talked. So we're going to take your questions today, of course, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the game going in. Not much has changed injury-wise or anything like that, but this is a Mississippi State team that Auburn's very concerned about with its offense, and that's because of Kylan Hill, their running back, number one in the SEC in rushing, but also the quarterback situation. They don't quite know who's going to be the starting quarterback. It might be true freshman Garrett Schrader, who replaced the usual starter Tommy Stevens, who is a Penn State transfer. The difference between the two is Schrader's more of a dual threat guy, can run the ball. He rushed for over 100 yards last week against Kentucky in his first college start, and like Bo Nix, he's a true freshman, but has proven that he's very, very worthy of the job. Does he start tomorrow? Auburn's not going to know until they head out on the field and start seeing them warm up. But they practiced this week preparing for both of them. The offense doesn't change much other than them doing more design runs with Garrett Schrader. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I think this is going to be the toughest test yet for Auburn's rush defense. This is the best rushing team Auburn has faced, including Oregon. It's not the best offensive line they've faced so far, though. The best one they faced was Oregon, the offensive line. But when it comes to skill players, running back, and quarterback being able to run the ball, this is going to be the toughest test yet. So Auburn's rush defense, which has just been stellar and has been allowing opponents not to rush over 3 yards in 3 of the 4 games, this is going to be very difficult to kind of hold them under that limit. But if they're able to continue to dominate defensively with the rush defense, Auburn's going to win this game going away. So I think that's the storyline to watch tomorrow is how does Auburn's front seven deal with Kylan Hill, the quarterback, and that running game. As far as Auburn's offense, I think Bob Shoop, the defensive coordinator for Mississippi State, is going to be pretty aggressive. He has been in the past. Maybe he won't this time, but he always has been. If he blitzes and comes after Bo Nix and tries to get in the backfield, Auburn's going to bounce some stuff outside just like they did at Texas A&M, and you're going to see a game plan that's very similar to what Auburn did against Texas A&M last week. And if that's the case, Auburn will be able to take advantage of some of that with their speed. This Mississippi State defense, not the same as last year. They were number one in the nation last year. They lost 3 first-round type guys. They're all gone. They're allowing a lot of points in games, and their offense is moving the ball, but they're not scoring a lot of points or as many points as they want. So it's easy to see why Auburn's favored by double digits in this one, but it could be closer depending on Auburn's rush defense. If Auburn gives up more than what they're accustomed to, this game could be closer than many think, but I still think Auburn's going to win this one fairly comfortably either way.
All right, so if Auburn's going to win, who's going to be playing? Let's go through the injuries and get some updates on who might play tomorrow and who might not.
Outside of Derek Hall, who's played a little bit, the freshman defensive lineman, there haven't really been any big injuries to report on this week. Seth Williams is going to play unless he's suffered a setback within the last 24 hours that I haven't heard about. The biggest questions I have are about guys with lingering injuries that are really hurting them, and that's T.D. Moultrie and Nick Coe, 2 of Auburn's supposed to be better pass rushers. And Auburn has really struggled. I mean, as good as Auburn's defensive line has been, they have really struggled rushing the passer on 3rd and long. We've seen Texas A&M and other teams completing passes for first downs on 3rd and long, 3rd and 8, for example. So it's because Auburn's pass rush just isn't quite getting there to the quarterback like we're accustomed to seeing in previous years. That was a problem last season, too. We thought it would improve this season. It hasn't yet, and the reason for that is because Moultrie and co. have been kind of nicked up and they've been slowed by a little bit. They've got to get going. We'll see if this is a game they can do that, especially if they're facing that true freshman quarterback, Garrett Schrader, tomorrow. If it's Tommy Stevens, maybe a little bit of a different story.
All right, so Joey Gatewood, do we think we're going to see him throw much tomorrow?
It just depends. I don't know. It just depends on what they want to do. I mean, obviously the coaches aren't telling me what the game plan is. But I do think this. I mean, you saw the hint of it at A&M with the little throwback to the tight end. They're not afraid to let Joey Gatewood throw the ball because, as Gus Malzahn's routinely said and repeatedly said, he's the backup quarterback, and he's got to be ready to come in at any time if Bo Nix gets hurt and be able to run the offense and throw. So will we see him throw the ball more this season? Sure. But will you see him on the field more maybe as a bee circles us? I don't know. It just depends on where they're at in the field and where they want to use them. Whenever I see a bee, I just don't move anymore.
Oops.
I used to swat.
Yeah.
I got stung once right here by a bumblebee. I was a little baby, kid. Not baby. I was like 10.
I just hope it doesn't sting me on air. That's not anything anyone wants to see. I can tell you already. So let's talk about Mississippi State's secondary a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know much about them. You guys tell me. Auburn, listen, this defense of State's is not great. It's not great. Now, against Kentucky, they did pretty good. They got one of their starters back. I can tell you that. They got one of their starters back last week. And I think his very first snap or maybe his second snap, he had a pick six. They're getting back to full strength. But the thing with State is they're dealing with a bunch of suspensions that they're, I guess, sprinkling out throughout the season. And we won't really know who's sitting out for Mississippi State tomorrow until right before kickoff when they announce the suspensions. So even Gus Malzahn has said this week, 'cause people are asking, how do you deal with that? Is Mississippi State required to tell you who's suspended going into this game? No. He says, but we have analysts who are standing there on the sideline and in the press box before the game as they warm up that are taking notes so they can figure out who's playing and who's not playing. And so we won't know till kickoff tomorrow who's playing and who's not playing. But they've been really, not only did they lose a lot from last season's defense, but they've lost something because of the suspensions as well.
All right, so Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, are they both healthy right now? I know they've both had a couple issues here and there the past few weeks, but health status on them?
They're good to go from what I've been told. Both of them have been hobbled a little bit. You've seen them come off the field pretty slowly at times. I know Derek Brown came off the field slowly, I think, at the end of the A&M game, if I recall. Sorry if I'm not recalling this correctly, so a couple people just point at me. I don't know what's happening. We better run away. No. So the thing is, though, with Derek Brown is that he's been nicked up twice already this season. He's been playing okay. He's fine. I mean, he had a career game, really, against A&M, and I would expect that you're going to see him on the field tomorrow going at it. I mean, Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, they're really, lack of a better word, they're really pissed off going into this game because State ran all over them last season. And those guys, even if they're not 100%, they're definitely going to play because they really want to kick Mississippi State in the face. So there you go.
Kick them in the face. They want to kick them in the face.
Because that's a penalty, and you'll be suspended.
All right, so switching it up a little bit, let's talk about some running backs. How much do you think we're going to see Shivers? And what do you think Boobie Whitlow might do tomorrow?
Yeah, if Mississippi State is blitzing and being aggressive, as I think they might be on defense tomorrow, you're going to see more of Shivers. You're going to see him carry the ball probably half dozen times, maybe 10, as they try to utilize some speed. Same thing with jet sweeps with, Eli Stove, which we haven't seen a lot of, and Anthony Schwartz, as we saw last week with the 57-yard touchdown run. Whitlow is going to be a guy who can do a little bit of everything, can play, but if Mississippi State's Auburn's not going to run it between the guards or run it behind between the tackles and run behind the guards in the center. They're going to try and do some counter trays, buck sweeps, and everything. And while Whitlow can do that and has done it a few times this year, they like to use other players to do that. So if State, simply put, if State is blitzing and being more aggressive, Auburn's probably not going to use Whitlow as much as they usually would, and they're going to lean on some other players.
All right, so we're getting a lot of questions about Bo Nix, and what do you think we're going to see with his consistency? Do you think we're going to see his consistency start to improve for real tomorrow, or see more of what we have been seeing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the coaches still believe that he's going to get better, each week. He's missed 5 passes on overthrows on deep routes the last 2 weeks, including 3 at A&M, as you guys remember last week. And yet 2 of those, which he easily could have, that's a blowout. It's a blowout victory for Auburn. So he's going to have to hit those passes. And Gus Malzahn said on his radio show last night, he said, at some point, we can't do that. You can't leave points off the scoreboard, because you do that in a big game, you're going to lose. And really, every game's big from here on out, because if Auburn wants to stay in the playoff race, they can't be losing games. And not only is the State game big from that standpoint, as far as revenge and trying to get better, but Florida's next week. It's going to be a top 10 game most likely if Auburn wins this one, in Gainesville, and it's going to be loud as heck, and Nix needs to show some improvement against Mississippi State to give Auburn a little bit more confidence going into that game, because that's been the one weakness of Bo Nix out of everything. I mean, his passing percentage has increased. It's gotten better. He's running the ball better. His awareness is better, but he's just not hitting those deep throws. A couple of them are because of pass protection issues, but even with the pressure in his face, he should still be able to deliver a couple of those passes each game.
All right, so do you think Auburn will rush for more than 250 yards? I personally think it's possible.
Wow. Yeah, it's possible. If they rush for 250-plus yards tomorrow, they're blowing out Mississippi State. That's a blowout. We'll see. Listen, they rushed for 193 yards against A&M, against a really good A&M defense, at least on paper, that was only allowing 84 yards rushing per game. If Auburn rushes for 250 tomorrow, this is going to be a blowout and a laugher, and we're going to be talking about the Florida matchup at halftime. So I don't know. There's really no way to predict that, because Auburn's been like a second-half team running the ball, and then last week was the first time we saw them running the ball effectively in the first half. But then the second and third quarters, they really slowed down. I think they only had 33 combined rushing yards in the second and third quarters. So we'll see. But if they're going to get up to 200-plus in this game, they're going to have to start hot again like they did at A&M.
All right, so more on running backs. Aside from Whitlow and Shivers, who else might be in line to receive carries tomorrow? And while talking about them, what moved Cam Martin back so deep in the depth chart?
He's just been moved back on the depth chart. I think they feel better with Shivers, the things they want to do on the outside with him. Outside of those guys, those are really the guys for Auburn. It's Whitlow, it's Shivers, a little bit of Schwartz in there, Harold Joyner even though I don't think you're necessarily going to see him carrying the ball 3, 4, 5 times a game. And then Cam Martin's in there. But I just don't think that, I don't know if Cam Martin's a guy that's going to be one of their top 2 running backs this season. If he was going to be, we would have seen that. And when they went on the road at A&M, they mixed things up, and they played a little bit more of Shivers. So I expect that to continue until maybe they get more confidence in freshman DJ Williams, because Williams is a guy that I believe could be their second-best running back. But he's not 100%. He's healthy, but he's not like in football, readiness, so to speak, as a true freshman. And they're hopeful that maybe he can get some carries this week, but at this point it's getting to a situation where it might be too late for him to see any significant playing time.
All right, so we seem pretty confident that Auburn might come out with another win tomorrow. How long do you think the Tigers will remain undefeated?
Well, I mean, I said last week that if Auburn beat A&M, I like their chances to beat State and to beat Florida on the road. I think the only loss between now and November that I think I can almost guarantee is LSU. Auburn hasn't won at LSU since 1999, And this is the best LSU offense Auburn will have faced since then, I believe. The LSU offense is doing whatever they want. The LSU defense, on the other hand, is kind of taking a step back this season, which is interesting. But I don't know if Auburn can play a catch up against LSU on the road. And even some great Auburn teams that have gone there have lost. Every team that's gone to the SEC championship game, has lost there. So, under Gus Malzahn. So, yeah. But I think Florida's very beatable. They haven't shown anything to me. I watched that Miami game, of course, open the season. They're a little bit different from then, but I was really impressed with their defensive line because they had like 10 sacks, but then I realized that Miami was terrible, and it was a close game still. So, if that game was at Auburn, I'd say Auburn wins, by a touchdown. But with it being on the road, that could be a very tight game and a very low-scoring game, in fact. But I still like the Tigers in that one, and I think they could remain undefeated until they go to LSU. I just don't know how they come out of LSU with the win.
All right. Do you have a final score prediction for tomorrow?
I do, and I don't remember it. And I don't want to contradict what I said because I was just all over the map when I turned it in. I think I predicted something like 31-13, something like that, on our Fearless Forecasters. I don't remember exactly what I picked, but I think Auburn wins by 2 touchdowns or so, or a little bit more, because I think the defense is going to hold them pretty much in check, save for maybe a touchdown or two and a couple of red zone possessions after that might lead to field goals. So I think Auburn's going to hit the 30-point mark in this game and win relatively easily. They just can't allow Mississippi State to come out hot, because Auburn's defense has allowed every team to move the ball on the first drive easily, whether they score or not. If State comes in here and they're starting a true freshman quarterback like Garrett Schrader or even Tommy Stevens as a quarterback, and you give them confidence that they can score on that first drive, that changes the game a little bit, in my opinion. So Auburn's defense has really got to step up on that first possession, but I like the Tigers to win by 14 or more. Is that it? Great.
That appears to be it.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. For Alexa, I'm Brandon. Much more coverage at auburn.247sports.com. And, of course, much more when the game gets here tomorrow. 6 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. We'll be there covering all the action. Thanks for joining us.